Well, Highway 61, he was very open and we had no problem communicating, and he liked the photographs, and we became very close. I just saw him writing, and I thought that was very much Dylan. I don't think there are very many where you see him writing. And it was funny because the day that this manager said that he had arranged it so I could go to the recording studio and photograph him, and I got a call from somebody I knew about 4 years before. And I said, "Oh, how are you? What are you doing?" And all that. And in the conversation, she said, "Oh, I hear you're going to photograph Dylan." I just ignored it, but then she kept on talking. And through the conversation, she mentioned, "Oh, Dylan this and Dylan that." And finally, I said to her, "How do you know so much about Dylan?" So that was Sarah's first wife. And through her, she told Dylan I was okay. So I really had an in a way.
And she buttoned her boots and straightened her suit. And she said, "Don't get cute." So I forced my hands in my pockets and filled with my thumb.
We had fun. You can see by the pictures that I even put on costume, and I was in one series of the photographs. A little statuette was made by a friend of mine, but I'd give it to him, see what he would do with it.
Now this was just hanging around the studio, but we had nothing to do with it, but I just found it. People ask, what does it mean? I don't know, just Dylan. And this is the same thing, got a cigarette in his hand, put it in her mouth.
And then we became friends. He became Dylan, and he started traveling all the time, and I was becoming popular, and I was traveling all the time, so we didn't see very much. And my contact with him was really through his manager, Albert Grossman. And then every time I could, I would try to call and see if I could do some pictures of him, or they'd call me, so they had something that they needed a photograph of, and so we had a good relationship.
Albert asked me if I would want to do the cover. He didn't tell me what it was.
I had set something up in my studio to do this first sitting, and I didn't like what I was getting. I thought I needed something a little bit more, and I thought, well, maybe I should go out with him in the street. But I said it was pretty cold. It's a lot to get Dylan and then to take him out into the cold New York. When I suggested it, he said, "Yeah, sure, let's go out." We got in a car and we started driving, and I remember when I was a kid, I used to go with my parents to different restaurants on the Lower East Side that had slaughterhouses and places that also had restaurants, and we used to eat there. I said, "Well, let's take a look around there," and I got to that building. I said, "That's the building I want to photograph you against." And it had those windows with the bars and all that. It just seemed a nice location. And he was okay, and he got out, and he didn't complain about the cold, and it was pretty cold.
Yeah, right here. Now, he thinks it's there. I think Dylan was here when I photographed it. And these are the metal protection grates on the windows. Yeah, that's them. Yeah.
He was wearing a suede jacket. And I said to myself, I can't put on a big heavy coat or anything like that because this guy is practically undressed. So I had a suede jacket that I put on to match what he was going to go through. We didn't talk about it, but I think he appreciated the fact that I was freezing. The two of us were like that, a lot of the time, and the negatives show that.
There were about 3 or 4 that were moving and out of focus. And everybody says we were trying to emulate a trip. And I said, no, it was fucking cold. It was February, and we had light jackets on. One that's very close to the cover is one of them with the Mona Lisa smile, just starting to smile, which is not as good as the one where he's not smiling. So Bob picked that one, the one that was not smiling. And probably if I was sending them in, I might have pulled them out as rejects. And I figured, no, a record company's not going to use a blurred photograph and all that. And he sent it in. What Bob wants, Bob gets. You put that photograph in a window, a record store, it'll pop right out.
He was just really a good subject, aside from being a wonderful talent, but he liked the photographs. I didn't put a lot of pressures on them. I didn't say, oh, change this, put on that. Towards the end of the times that I photographed him, you could see that he was restricting himself a little bit more. But I got what I wanted. When I'd listened to his music, there was just something about him that was special.